hypnosis work? Does it work on an energetic level? Can it help you raise your vibration? How about your consciousness and awareness? Could it perhaps open spiritual doors that you didn't know were closed? We're going to talk about that and much, much more tonight. In tonight's Get Off the Couch segment, I'm going to encourage you to look at any rules that you might have. Because when we have rules, a lot of times that's going to shut us off to opportunities. We're doing a special taping today. This is the first time we've taped a show ahead of time because we have such an active audience that like to chat and ask questions, but I had a really great opportunity to interview our guest from England, and we had to work with his schedule. And so I outweighed, well, you could have a rule around taping guests or not, and it made more sense to be able to offer this to you instead of saying, oh, sorry, you don't fit in the little rules here, we're not going to be able to do the interview. So I encourage you, just check and see what you have rules around and maybe go a little deeper and examine what that's about and if you can relax or change them. All right, we're ready to tell you about tonight's guest. Glenn Harrold is one of the world's most successful hypnotherapists. He has helped thousands, including many celebrities, in a 20-year career and has sold over 2 million hypnosis CDs, MP3 downloads, and apps. In 2006, he received a gold disc from Nielsen Book Data for sales of 250,000 pounds of his best-selling hypnosis CD, Complete Relaxation. Glenn writes self-help books for Orion in the UK and McGraw-Hill in the USA. His seventh book, The Answer, was released worldwide by Orion in January 2012. In May 2011, he was made a Fellow of the British School of Clinical Hypnosis in acknowledgement of his achievements in the world of hypnotherapy. Welcome, Glenn. Can you let's start off. A lot of people know about hypnosis, but can you briefly explain, if someone doesn't, how does hypnosis actually work?
Well, hypnosis is simply a focused state of attention. And, you know, it's something that everybody experiences a couple of times a day. You know, when you're, the hypnopompic state and the hypnagogic state are states between being fully asleep and fully awake. So you experience that first thing in the morning, which is the hypnopompic state, and last thing at night before you go to sleep is the hypnagogic state. So it's just that little space in between being fully conscious and being fully asleep. There's a part you cross over, and that's a trance state, a naturally occurring trance state. Another state that we experience in our everyday life is when we daydream, and that's also a trance state. And it's where your right brain is very active and creative in your thinking, and your left brain is kind of switched off, the analytical part of your mind. And so everybody experiences that. So I always say to people, don't be afraid of hypnosis because you've actually experienced it many times throughout your life. I think the fear comes into it where people have been exposed to stage hypnosis, or they've heard a hypnosis story in the media that's very scary. And so people have this misperception as to what hypnosis actually is. And because when you see the stage shows, they always look very powerful, and it looks like the guy's got people under his control, and there is an element of that in those kind of shows. But that's using hypnosis for entertainment, and it's using it for control and manipulation. But you normally see the people that are in those shows, they want to be up on the stage, they want to be a part of the show. So they're normally very compliant types, you know, the stage hypnosis is working with. So that is one kind of hypnosis. That's the stage hypnosis thing, which is completely different to using hypnosis as a therapeutic tool. And that's what I do. So the kind of hypnosis I use is it's a very gradual progression into deeper trance states. In a therapeutic setting, you do that very gradually and very gently, and it's also done very safely. And you kind of, I always connect with the client and, you know, find out what they want to achieve, what their expectation is, and, you know, then basically once I've gathered that information, I feed that back in the trance state. So that's the thing that I always try to explain to people, that you've got stage hypnosis and you've got hypnotherapy. And they're two completely different things.
So, Glenn, when you're working with a client, let's say that will they not reveal anything before they're ready? For instance, say that you're working with someone who was abused as a child and repressed it or forgotten it. When you work with someone, do you allow it? It will come out when they're ready, I guess, when I'm asking. So I think a lot of people have a fear around, I'm going to reveal something like maybe I had an affair and I don't want to see Glenn for relaxation issues because then I'm going to blurt out I've had an affair.
I think you're right there. You said that, people will only reveal what they need to at that time. And, even when you're in a trance state, you still have full control over what you say and what you do. There's a part of the brain called the hidden observer that's kind of overlooks all that kind of thing. And, so you're very much in control. Even though you're in a trance state, you're relaxed and your unconscious mind is more open. You've still got a lot of control in that situation. And I've never really had a client that I can ever think of that's revealed something to me that they felt uncomfortable with or that it wasn't right for them. It's normally that when we're looking for the cause of a problem or we're trying to heal a certain issue, sometimes things will come up, but they'll be very relevant to the issue, and it will be something that the person really wants to release, and they're very comfortable with doing that. So, a good example of that is it was quite an interesting case that I had a number of years ago where a lady had a terrible fear of the dark, and she came to see me. She didn't know the origin of it. It's something she had for a long, long time, since childhood, and it got worse and worse. And I regressed her back to the cause of the problem because that was the right route to go with this particular client. And in a split second, as I did that, as I regressed her back to the cause of the problem, she regressed back into a past life. And it was quite a vivid story that came out. She was in an Egyptian temple, and it was very dark in this temple. And a very colourful story came out. She started relaying it to me. And then during this session, she started speaking Egyptian. And she couldn't speak any other language in a normal waking consciousness. And, this fascinating, colourful story came out. And, it felt very cathartic at the time. And she was very comfortable with it, even though it was quite a, diversion from what we'd expected. This story came out. And the thing was, she came back out of consciousness. I told her that she's been speaking Egyptian. She didn't have any recall of that, and she was as amazed as I was. She went away, and the fear completely disappeared. From that session onwards, it was a one session, and it went completely. So whatever it was in her subconscious that was hanging on to that fear, that was the avenue, that was the road we took to get rid of it. And so I'm always the guide, the facilitator. I never lead people, I always guide them. And I guide them to find their own solutions and their own answers. And sometimes they come out in the most colourful of ways, but, it's always done in a very safe and secure setting.
Can you maybe give us some other examples of clients that you've treated and some common problems? Like a lot of times I've heard hypnosis will help with smoking, but if there are other things that you think maybe people aren't aware of, or just give us an idea that, working with a hypnotherapist can help with.
I mean, it really can, because, you can, people respond very differently to hypnosis. And you find there's that general rule that 20% of the population don't respond too well to hypnosis. 60% respond, go into an average depth trance, and 20% are what they call somnambulists, who go into very deep trances very quickly. But actually curing problems or healing problems can vary from person to person. I can have 10 people with weight issues and, work in similar ways, and they will all respond in a different way. It kind of depends on their own motivation and how much they want to get over the issue. Sometimes with smoking, you get people who are very, very committed to giving up, and, they're great clients because they've got their own motivation. And what I do is reinforce that. I feed it back to them in a trance state. Sometimes you get people who come along and they say they want to stop smoking, but there's other things, there's other factors, And I did once see a lady that came to see me. She had a dental fear initially, and she was absolutely petrified of having any dental work. So much so that she'd been to the dentist a number of times in the last 10 years, but she hadn't been able to have any work done because as soon as the dentist got near her mouth, she clambered up and she had a panic attack and she had to run out of the dentistry. So she came to see me for that, and I worked with her, and gave her a number of suggestions, and I got rid of the root cause of the problem. And the session was a complete success. She went back the next week and she had all the dental work done. And the dentist was amazed because, you know, she'd gone from being absolutely petrified to being able to open her mouth and him do all the work, and it was fine. And then she came back to see me the following week. She said, now I want to stop smoking. She said, no, she said, I want you to stop me smoking. And I explained to her that she still needed her own motivation. Hypnosis is not a magic cure for everything. You know, and she said, well, I don't, you know, she wasn't really committed to stopping. You know, there was part of her that was hanging on. And so I did, you know, I went ahead with the session. You know, I gave her all the right suggestions, and she didn't stop. She had the session and she carried on smoking. And that was a good example where her motivation was so strong to get over the dental phobia, and she did, and it wasn't as strong to stop smoking, and it failed. It didn't work for her. So it kind of shows you how you still need your own motivation and desire to achieve your goal, whatever that is. So that's always a good example of, you know, how you need to have that in place before you come and see a hypnotherapist. Julie, I've lost sound now. I can't hear you.
Can you hear us now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
That's loud and clear.
Sorry about that. One of the things I was most fascinated about when researching you is talking about how hypnosis affects you on an energetic level and consciousness and all that good stuff. So first, when I get hypnotized and worked with the hypnotherapist, how does it affect me on an energetic level?
Well, I think when you go into that state, you know, that trance state, and you become very still and you get very centered, you know, you on an energetic level, you're able to replenish because you're not thinking, you're not doing, you know, every cell in your body is relaxing, it's going into a calm state. So your energy field and your energetic body has a chance to replenish and heal itself. And that's the main reason why hypnosis, self-hypnosis, meditation has such a profound effect on people. You know, it's because of that, because you're able to go into that restorative state where you're able to recharge your batteries. And I've just made a series of recordings, you know, on a more energetic level. They're very much along the hypnosis meditation vein, but they work on a more energetic level. And I've made a range of recordings called the solfeggio recordings, which use the ancient solfeggio scale. And each one of those frequencies in the solfeggio scale resonate at certain frequencies. So you've got the 396 hertz, 417, 528, 639, 741, and 852 hertz. And each one of those frequencies resonates at a certain pitch. And by using that combination with hypnotherapy, it's really impacting you on an energetic level. And, you know, we've found that these recordings are really kind of connecting with people on such a deep level that they're having, you know, even listening to the recording a couple of times, they're having these massive cathartic reactions and very emotional at times, you know. And the thing I do with my recordings, I always make them very safe first. That's the key to it. You know, I make them safe and then I make them effective and as powerful as I can make them. And the combination of using the solfeggio tones and frequencies that really resonate on an energetic level, and the hypnotherapy recording, they've been really, really effective. And, you know, we're getting some amazing feedback on those. So yeah, that's a wonderful range that I'm really proud of.
So can you explain to me so when you're making a recording, how do you tap into the frequencies? Is it something that is within your voice? Because we've had people on the show who have used their voice and with sound healing? Is it something like that, or is it how you set music or background? How does that work to match that frequency?
Well, what I do with the solfeggio tones, they're very specific frequencies. And so on their own, they have an impact. You know, with my voice on them as well as a hypnotherapy guided hypnotherapy recording, it's they're working together. So the frequencies impact people, and then my voice. You know, when I record, I'm in my studio now actually, and when I go into my booth here and I record, I can actually tell when I'm in the zone and when I'm actually speaking from my heart and not from my head. So sometimes I go in there and I might have been on the computer before or might have been, you know, doing something analytical, and I go into the booth and I speak and my voice is not quite there. I can actually tell now if the frequency is not right. So it takes me a little while to get into the zone, and I normally allow sort of 10 or 15 minutes to get in there and to really, you know, get into that centered space where I can deliver, you know, the right words in the right tone and you know, transmit. And so I'm really conscious of that now when I make recordings. And, you know, and more so I've just done another recording called Spiritual Healing, which again is very on the shamanic lines. You know, I spent 2.5 months of this year earlier on in January through to March at a shamanic retreat out in Panama. And I really got influenced by that, working with a shaman out there and on an energetic level. And so the recordings I'm making at the moment are very much a reflection of that. And they do go very deep, you know, and the feedback I get is congruent with that.
We have a comment here from Rebecca who says she can feel your energy right now. Wow. So
lovely.
Just by watching, yeah, even though we're taping this and we'll air it later, we got some people who are watching. Talk a little bit more, if you would, go in depth about your shamanic retreat and how that's influencing your work now and you're bringing that in.
Well, working with the shaman for, you know, 2.5 months, it gave me another, you know, set of tools to work with, because I found that, you know, when your intention is really pure and really clear, and your heart, you're coming from your heart, you're speaking from your heart, there's much more power in what you do. And so, you know, every recording I've done since then, I've been much more mindful to be working from my heart energy and to be transmitting that, you know, and really getting into a space where I'm coming from my heart and delivering it in a heart-centered way, and you know, encouraging as well the listener of the recording to do the same, you know, to breathe in and out through their heart chakra and really connect with their feelings. Because I find that when you repeat an affirmation and you're doing it and you're really feeling it, you know, your feelings are involved and you're resonating with that. You're not just thinking about it. You're not just thinking, you know, I feel more and more confident. You know, if that's just coming from a headspace, it's not gonna have much of an impact. But if every cell in your body is thinking, I feel so confident, and you believe it and you're resonating with that and you're projecting that from your heart, then that affirmation will embed itself, you know, deeply into your consciousness, and you will respond to that. You know, that's a post-hypnotic suggestion that you will respond to at a later date, and it will be very, very powerful, and it embeds itself. And that's kind of how you change patterns of behavior. And, you know, that's how you turn your life around. I mean, I certainly did that. You know, when I was a kid, I was a bit of a tearaway. You know, I got into all sorts of trouble. I was expelled from school when I was a kid, and, you know, nothing worked for me. And then I got into my adult life, and I just used to hit brick walls all the time. And it was when I found the power of going inside and projecting out, you know, good thoughts, good feelings, that my life started to turn around. You know, and that slowly, little by little, pulled myself out of a very dysfunctional place and started to have more and more success in my life. And you know, that's, anyone can do that. You know, we've all got that potential. We've all got huge potential inside of us. And it comes from being able to go inside and access that part of us and being determined. I mean, the shamanic work is very disciplined, and it's very focused. You know, it's the shaman that I worked with. Every single day of his life, he's doing ceremonial work and working with energy, and you know, aligning himself with the Divine Mother. That's the way the shamanic works. Shamanism works. And when you do that, you know, it takes effort and discipline and determination, but the rewards you reap from that are amazing, because it transforms your life and it aligns you with a very, very pure, high vibrational energy that, you know, you naturally emit, and then you attract back into your life. You know, it works beautifully.
I have a couple thoughts here, but we'll take one at a time. I love how you're talking about coming from a place of pure intention and coming from your heart chakra. What I learned from another guest that we had on, I closed my eyes, I put my hand over my heart, and asked the question, because how it was explained to me is that when my eyes are open, I'm going to come from my more logical self. And I think until you get to a point where you can completely be in your heart, but that was really challenging at first. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to hear that inner wisdom. So I love that you've shared that. If someone is trying to work on coming from their heart, do you have any advice for them or an exercise that maybe helped you when you were starting to do that?
Well, that's a good starting point, you know, just to close your eyes and connect with your breath. You know, begin to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth very slowly and very deeply. You know, do that for a few minutes. And then what to do, a real good thing to do, is start to imagine that you're breathing in through your heart chakra, which is in the center of your chest, you know, in alignment with your heart. Imagine that you're breathing in pure air into that chakra, and imagine that air sort of filling your body, filling your aura, and then you breathe that out. You breathe that same feeling out, so you're effectively breathing love out. And if you do that for a few moments and just quieten your mind, you know, if any thoughts come in, just allow them to drift away. Just stay with that breath and continue breathing in, and imagine your heart expanding, your heart aura and your energy expanding so that it fills your aura and expands out and away from you. That will get you very connected and very present and into your heart energy. And then, you know, whatever you need to do from that point on, you're gonna be in a really good place.
I'm going to add that to my toolbox. I think that's a really simple, easy, effective tool that people can use. The other thing I love that you mentioned previously was about feeling and changing your thoughts, but feeling them. I will share, this is embarrassing. I walked into my home yesterday and didn't know my fiance was home. And so I say his name, Coraggio, and I'm kind of goofy, but I go around the house now saying, I am the Oprah Winfrey of body, mind, spirit. And because that is what I want to be. This is what my passion is, and so I am committed to saying that every day and feeling it with every soul of my being. And a couple years ago, I won an award, and what I call my Oprah voice did the same thing, and I won the award, and everyone was shocked because they're like, you're from Raleigh, how could you have won the award? It's a national thing. But I so believe that again, not just the affirmation, but getting the feeling behind it.
Yeah. When you get the feeling behind it, you know, we turn into superhuman beings. When we're really, really strong with that, when we're resonating with that, there's no limit to what we can do. I mean, we only use, they say that we use a fraction of our brain, you know, a small part of our brain, whereas every other species on the planet uses all of its brain all of the time, but we're not fully engaged in that. But when you go inside and you connect with your feelings and, you know, you're engaging, you become more whole at that point. You know, and you're more focused. And, you know, a good example of that is where you hear these stories of where a child will get trapped under a car and the mother will be able to walk up to the car and pick it up and lift the child out. I mean, that's a case that's been well documented all over the world many times. And it's because, you know, when you're faced with a situation like that, you know, every cell in your body is totally engaged in being able to, in this case, lift the half a ton car out and pull the child out. And it kind of shows you the superhuman potential that we've got in cases like that, you know, where we're challenged or we're threatened. And, you know, we've all got that ability, every one of us. And, you know, through by going inside and connecting with your feelings and engaging your heart energy, you know, you're accessing that part of you, that powerful part of you, where you can achieve anything. And, you know, and on the other aspect of that, when you are that focused and when you are that engaged, you become a vibrational, energetic being that is attracting back to you that exact same thing that you're projecting out there. I mean, there's that great Einstein quote where he says that everything in the universe is matching each other at a vibrational level. And, that's not new age talking. That's a scientific fact. I can't remember the exact quote now, but it's a great Einstein quote that your viewers might want to look up. And I'll have to put it up on my site. And it's about the energy and frequency that you create within you will be a match. You'll naturally attract back to you everything that's on the same vibration. And that's physics and science. That was a great Einstein theory.
I also love that you talked about discipline and how important that is, because I got an email yesterday that upset me, and so I came back from it from a neutral position, but it was a larger lesson for me to not compromise at a soul level, because I'm coming up with a solution, and the person wanted to stay in victim mentality and blame, and I thought, I'm not going to lower myself to that, but I'm going to honor myself. But what's very interesting, I'm a recovering worrier, among other things. And so I have been watching like a hawk my thoughts for these past 24 hours. And it's just phenomenal to me. Like, oh my gosh, when you really look at your thoughts and are very aware of it, how many times we have a negative thought or have to cut it off. And, one of the things I loved when reading some of your blogs is you talked about a daily practice, a daily spiritual practice. And so I'd like you to expand on that a little more, why it's so important for us to do it daily. Because I think a lot of times people are like, oh, maybe I'll watch this show every so often, or maybe read a book, but it's really about the daily practice. Can you tell us about that?
It is so important to be able to, check your thoughts and stop yourself going down a road that you don't want to go down, a negative, because it can start with a negative thought, and then before you know it, you're in a cycle of fear and worry. And so it's so important to, that's a really good discipline, what you said there. Watch every single thought that comes into your head every single day. And, it's hard to do that day after day, but if you get in the habit of doing that, then you start to have more control over the thoughts that come into your head. And, often we do have negative thoughts. We have judgmental thoughts when we meet people, when we're out and about. We might have somebody that cuts us up in the car, and, we think of bad thoughts towards them. And it's being able to, I think, people who are genuinely positive thinkers are able to not dwell on those kind of thoughts. So then they still have them because they're human beings. But they don't allow themselves to get stuck in a rut and, go further on there. They'll pull themselves out of that fairly quickly and realign themselves with the positive energy that they're in most of the time. And, for me, when I kind of went from, because I had a lot of negative programming when I was younger. I was often told I was no good. I was, not a good kid at school, and I was not going to achieve much. And, I had that kind of drummed into me when I was young. And so as an adult, a young adult, I went out, and that was what I believed about myself. I believed that I was no good. I wasn't going to succeed. And sure enough, that's what happened in my life. Everything turned to stone. And when I learned to change my way of thinking and to stop those negative thoughts, to cut them off, to not feed them, I then started to change my whole outlook, my way of thinking, and, the people that I mixed with, the friends I have, disappeared. The old friends disappeared, and I, tended to hang out with more positive people. And you transform your life that way. And, so you've got to be really clear about what it is you want in your life. I'm a big believer in setting goals and setting targets, to achieve what you want to achieve. If you want great friendships, if you want to attract love into your life, you want to be abundant, write those things down and be clear about them, and read them every single day. Read your goals and your affirmations, and then do little things each day that take you closer towards them, and align yourself with as many things as you can that are going to, take you to those goals. And I've done that for a long period. When I figured how to do that, when I came out of that negative cycle, and I had a big list of goals, and within 2 or 3 years, I'd achieved most of them. And, that is a really great thing, because when you write them down, they're kind of crystallized and they're there. But, make sure that you review it once you've achieved them, set yourself another list of goals.
Now we have a question here from Rebecca, Glenn. She says she's challenged about diligent practice, and how do you get past whatever prevents you from doing that? She said meditation, tapping into higher energy feels good, but how do you get over where you're challenged, preventing you from tapping into the feel good?
So you mean if you can't get to a point where you want to overcome that, you just can't get beyond that?
Right. So she's like, hey, it feels great to meditate, but sometimes it's really hard to practice that every day, even though it feels good. So if someone's challenged in doing a daily practice, do you have any advice for overcoming their challenges or resistance to a daily practice?
Well, I think if you say to yourself that, she said that she knows it's good, she enjoys it, it's something that feels good to her. So I think if, you focus on that, focus on the benefits, maybe make a list of all the benefits that meditating bring to you. What does it improve in your life? What does it help you with? Because then you're focusing on the rewards of that. But I think also, it's not that you need to go and lie down in a room and, switch everything off and have the right music and the right setting. You can meditate anywhere you like, really, even if you're waiting at the bus stop or you're waiting for a bus, or you're sometimes I'll be on the train going into London. It's a 45-minute journey, and I normally have a big meeting when I go up there or something, an interview or whatever. So I use that 45 minutes on the train to close my eyes and to meditate and to focus and, focus on what I want to achieve that day. So we have a lot of dead time in the day, things where we can use that time really well. And so you think about it along those lines, so that you're doing little things each day. It's not necessarily you have to have a structure. You can be free with it and have fun with it. So if you're on a train or you're waiting for a bus, or even if you're in the shower, you can just focus. You can get your mind focused and project, affirm to yourself, repeat an affirmation over and over again. And, those are really useful times and good things to do. And it builds the whole energy, the positive energy, the goal setting thing. And it's something that becomes very holistic when you use it in that way.
Rebecca added that it's more forgetting to do it. So perhaps because you're a fan of writing down your goals, that you maybe would suggest writing it down? Or do you have any other thoughts since she forgets?
Yeah, write it down. When she hears this, write down a list of your goals, the things you want to achieve, set a time date on it, and be really clear about that. And, spend a bit of time with that, spend sort of half an hour with it and focus on it. And then have it in a place where you can see it each day. So put those goals on your bathroom mirror, on your bedside cabinet, on your PC, on your phone. Have those things there so they're constant reminders for you. And when you get those reminders, it really does help. All around my office, I have, great quotes from Gandhi, John Lennon, that kind of thing. And the girls in the office, they read it. And I had my accountant in the other week, and they read this list of Buddhist quotes that were on the wall. And one of the ladies who came in to do our book, she was really impacted by this list, because she told me a few weeks later she'd actually made a career change and she's gone in a different direction. And she quoted one of these quotes off of our wall poster. So, when you surround yourself with these things, they impact you on subtle levels. And it's also good as well to, be mindful of what you take in. So if you've got the news on every night blasting away and, bombarding you with negative images, that's not always a good thing. So limit the amount of negativity that you bring into your life, through the media, through what you read, what you watch, what you see. And that will help, because that will keep you a bit clearer and, allow your head free space for other things, more positive things.
Have you found with your clients or people that use your CDs that the more they use hypnosis, that helps raise their vibration? Because one, maybe it helps them relax or, eat healthy or whatever, where they were challenged. But as they do that, it kind of has that holistic effect. And maybe, okay, we tackled one thing and now allows me to tackle something else, or allows me to examine my thoughts more.
Absolutely. Because what happens is when people start to use hypnosis, and they lose weight for the first time, or they stop smoking, they realize the power and potential they've got inside themselves. And it can be very enlightening, and it can be something that think, wow, I've done that. And it certainly worked that way for me. When I used self-hypnosis all those years ago and got over problems and anxieties, I suddenly realized that this is such a powerful thing, and it's inside me. And so I used it for everything. If I played a tennis match, I'd be doing a bit of self-hypnosis before it. Whatever I wanted to do, I'd use self-hypnosis just to get into that really positive space where I was using the natural power I had inside me. And so, yeah, people get much stronger once they, have had a hypnosis session. And I always teach people to use self-hypnosis. I give away a free self-hypnosis guide on my website so people can learn how to use self-hypnosis from that. And when they do, yeah, it certainly changes their lives, because they, become more empowered, and they suddenly realize that they don't, their potential is inside them. It's not going to be from outside. It's not an external thing that comes to you. It's within you. So, the more you can, use those tools for so many things in your life, the more empowered and the more your energy raises, your vibration gets stronger, and the sky's the limit.
I love that, because I think it's so many times we feel that the power is outside of us and we seek it from someone else, whereas we really can go within to find the answers. And it sounds like, I was going to ask you, and it sounds like you, obviously, because you have the free download, but that you are a believer in self-hypnosis as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that transformed my life from a real, wayward, delinquent kid, off the rails, broke, disastrous relationships. I had a lot, I really did. I was, when I was a kid, I slept rough at times. I was expelled from school, so from that background, and it was only self-hypnosis, meditation, the law of attraction that pulled me out of that hole. Without finding those tools, I'd be struggling. God knows where I'd be today, but I wouldn't be, an author and making recordings that people listen to. And, it was a real epiphany when I found that, and when I was able to use those tools to transform my life. And I didn't suddenly go from, all those, real struggle, and, because my life was really difficult, and, so I had a lot of dysfunction to overcome. So it took me a while. It was almost like turning the tide. At first it seemed slow. The progress was slow. But the more I did it, the more I worked at meditating, self-hypnosis, and the more I focused, my thing at the time was focusing on abundance in my life. And that's, that was financial abundance, that was love, that was happiness, that was relationships. It was the whole thing. And the more I focused on that, and the more energy I put into it, the more the momentum built, and it kept going, and eventually it became easy, because I was such in that flow state, and I created so much energy before that it was like riding a wave. And I feel now, I'm riding a wave, and opportunities come to me all the time, and I live this, really fulfilling life, where things come easy to me. And it was because of all the work that I did over the years, and I continue to do. And, for me, there's no other way to live. It's you get into very harmonious places, and it's a work in progress. I'm not there, there's still things I work on, still things I want to overcome. And, I see it, and I'll be doing it till I'm, 100 years of age.
I so appreciate that, because we have so many people who, your level of success are still like, hey, I'm a work in progress, which I think is very encouraging to someone maybe just starting out who feels really overwhelmed and said, wow, well, here's this guy who's known all over the world, and he still says he's a work in progress.
I think, there's a great quote from Eric Clapton, where he says that, he's still learning the guitar. He still gets excited by learning to play the guitar. This is, a guy that is, he's a virtuoso, a genius guitarist who, loved and adored all over the world. And, he's 60 whatever he is now, and he's still learning the guitar. He still gets that excitement from it. And if you have that love for something, love for playing the guitar, or love for painting, or love for life, then you're still creative. Every day you can be the most creative person if your mindset's right. If you work on your mindset in that way, little by little, by doing all the things that I said before, the creativity starts to flow through you, and you wake up every day feeling, what am I going to do today? What's going to happen? I'm excited. It's like your first day on earth. And, I do have that feeling a lot. I feel that a lot of the time, and, a good way to get into that is through connecting with a feeling of gratitude. So wherever you're at in life, connect with a sense of gratitude. And I think one of my my virtues was that even when I was living in a really rough area and I was absolutely broke, I could still connect with a feeling of gratitude, because I had 2 arms, 2 legs, I was healthy, I could breathe, and I always looked at life from that perspective, even when I didn't have much. And I think that's a real key element. Look at the things that you have got in your life, not that you haven't got, and be grateful for that. Be grateful for the opportunities that you have got in life that you could create, because we do live, although the world's in chaos at the moment, there's lots of turmoil, we do live in a world there's a lot of opportunities still. The internet has done that for us. There's so many opportunities that are available to all. You can go to a night school, learn about how to do things on the internet, how to sell stuff, how to and you can create a wonderful career for yourself if you're determined enough. And so wherever you are in life, try to connect with a feeling of gratitude, and then find what your passion is. What excites you about, what was the things you were good at as kids? What did you naturally aspire to when you were young? What did you like doing? And try to find those things within you that really excite you, and do more of them in your life, because that's going to give you that feeling of excitement and creativity, and looking forward to to the next week, or what you can do in the day. And I love that. I love waking up feeling great and looking forward to the day ahead.
I think gratitude is so important. My brother had an unexpected stroke, and he's young. And when I talked to him, it affected his right side. We still have, barely any use of his hand. He said, well, because he's in a rehab center now, and he said, well, I still have my limbs. Because he was in a rehab center with, people who had lost limbs and were learning how to work without that. And a stroke's a pretty big deal. He's right-handed, and to lose your right side, is a challenge. I also think that's so important to find what you're passionate about, and just to be open. This show was random. Someone said to me, hey, you should do a show. And I was like, oh, okay. And what would I do a show? And I thought back, and I thought, well, what excites you? Well, you've always loved alternative medicine. You've always loved learning and what else is out there, and you like to connect people. I always joke, I don't want to be the healer, because everyone would drive me nuts if they didn't listen to me, but I want to be the person who gets all the information out there so that people can find their passion, they can heal, they can be the amazing human beings that they're meant to be.
That's wonderful. That's a great example of you tuning into what you really want to do, and taking the steps to make that happen. And we've all got that potential to do that. But you've got to be clear about what it is you want from life, what it is you want to do. One of my things when I was young, my dad had a very successful printing business, but I could have had a very comfortable life working in that. I could have had a company car and a good salary. But it bored me, the printing side. It just wasn't for me. I'm a creative person, and it just didn't float my boat. And so for a number of years, I drove a mini cab back in those days, and it was kind of a stopgap. I knew it was. I was never going to do it for a long time, but I did it for about 4 years, and I met all kinds of people, weird and wonderful people, driving a mini cab in London at night, and it was a real good experience, because I met all kinds of people from every walk of life. I even met royalty and celebrities, A-listers, And, you know, in a small car environment, you kind of chat to people, and, you know, so I had these amazing conversations with very famous, successful people. And I also met people from the other end of the spectrum, you know, from the dark side of life, you know, or you know, from the streets. And, you know, so that was a real good experience. And I did that for 4 years before I became a hypnotherapist. And also in bars and clubs and that kind of thing, played guitar. And, you know, so that gave me a good grounding and a good experience of life, and, you know, being able to connect with people from all walks of life. But it was during that time that I really started to think about what it was. You know, I knew I didn't want to go into my dad's business. I needed something that was for my own self and was going to give me my own satisfaction. And it was one night when I was doing a gig in a club that we shared the bill with a stage hypnotist. And I watched this stage hypnotist doing his thing and, you know, making people do outrageous things like they do. And it really sparked my interest in hypnosis. But I knew I didn't want to do it to, you know, make people do outrageous things. I was kind of drawn to it for the healing potential of it. And I could see that, you know. And so then from there, I did a diploma in hypnotherapy, and, you know, that took me on a completely different path. But it was by not kind of compromising what I wanted to do and looking and asking myself lots of questions that I found my vocation in life. And, you know, that for everyone out there, if you're stuck in a job you're not happy with, you know, there's always there's always other options. You know, you have got other options, and, you know, you can look at where your talents lie, look at what you're good at, you know, and start to think about where you really want to be in life. You know, you don't have to settle for just doing a job that pays you good money, that you can pay the mortgage off. You know, there's more to life than that, because once you pay the mortgage off, then what happens? You know, you're mortgage free and you're still not fulfilled. You know, so look for something, look for what makes you, what gives you a passion in life and what excites you. I've always done that, and I think that was one of the reasons where I've ended up in the position I'm in, because I wouldn't settle for just the comfy option. I always went for the road that was slightly tougher, but maybe was going to fulfill me in a more, you know, more creative way.
Do you think hypnosis can help us become more spiritually aligned? Or, you know, we're talking about finding your passion and listening to your heart. Can hypnosis help with that, or maybe unlock some hidden spiritual doors? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do think so. I think, you know, the solfeggio recordings that I've made, and the spiritual healing one, which is another new one, which goes very deep into spirituality, you know, I think that's definitely connecting with people and helping to open them up more. I think there are people who naturally want to do that. They're drawn to those titles because they want to open up themselves more, and so it kind of works on that level. And, you know, yeah, so definitely, you know, hypnosis and going inside and, you know, really, you know, building your energy from inside can help you connect with a higher spirituality. And, you know, but what I've learned is spirituality means different things to different people, you know, so I always leave the recordings very open for people to, you know, connect with whatever God, whatever guru, whatever deity, whatever it is they want to connect with, their higher self, you know, the divine mother, whatever it is, you know, you leave it open for people's own interpretation of that. But I do encourage that on my recordings, because for me it's, you know, it's when you're in a spiritually aligned place. And, you know, I had that in Panama. You know, I was in a very sacred space doing ceremonies 5 days a week with the shaman, and it really gave me a beautiful connection, you know, and my heart felt open and, you know, really felt good. And, you know, and that is a really beautiful place to be. You know, I honestly believe it's where we're all supposed to be, you know, but sometimes the harshness of the 3D world and the stresses and problems we have can pull us back down into a, you know, more sluggish place. And, you know, so again, you know, if you want to connect with that spirituality, it comes from within inside, and it comes from connecting with your heart energy. The heart is really the portal to connecting with that spirituality and really opening up to that. And, you know, as I said before, my recordings are really, you know, I gear them up now much more from the heart, and so that people can get that feeling, that connection. And it's a good place to be in when you get it.
Glenn, how would someone, I don't know, for instance, if you can do hypnosis over Skype, but if someone's looking for, how do they know that they're a genuine hypnotherapist or they're certified? What's the process so they can find someone that's genuine?
Well, in the UK, I'm not sure about the States or Canada, but in the UK, there must be lists out in the States and Canada where you can find people that have been well qualified. I mean, the main criteria is when you're looking for a hypnotherapist, check their qualifications, check they've gone through the right training with a reputable school or college in your country. And check they've got the right insurances. If you want to be really sure, most good hypnotherapists will have the right insurances. And then, if they tick those boxes, then what I always suggest to people is call a few in your area, and, within a short time, you'll start to, let your feelings guide you. So if you're talking to someone and you feel comfortable with them, their voice feels right to you, and they're saying the right things to you, that's probably the right person for you. So, allow your intuition to guide you, when you're looking for somebody. And, there are nowadays on the App Store, there are lots and lots of hypnotherapists on there, myself included. And you can look for their apps. A number of people give away their apps for free. And I've done that. I've got an app called Relax and Sleep Well that you can download completely for free, and it's a 25-minute hypnosis session that you can listen to, and it will guide you into a very relaxed state. It will make you very safe and calm at the same time, and so you can get a good feel from that. And I find most people respond really well to my brand of hypnosis, but occasionally I get people that say, "Oh, I didn't like the voice" or whatever, and that's just like it. So you hear people say they didn't like the Beatles. For whatever reason, it may be that my voice reminds them of their uncle that they didn't like, or whatever. So kind of look for somebody, whether it's an app or whether it's a therapist that you resonate with and you feel comfortable with, and you feel in a good space. And you can do that before you meet them. You can do that via phone or through downloading one of their recordings.
And can you tell us a little bit about the CDs and MP3? There's one on relaxation, but what other ones do you have?
Well, I've been making recordings now for about 15 years because my background was as a musician. So I always kept video. And when I got into, when I got to quite an experienced level of seeing clients as a hypnotherapist, I then started to make recordings. And I've got recordings now on probably about 40 or 50 titles that cover sleep, weight, smoking, relaxation, anxiety, through to the more spiritual ones that I'm making at the moment, like the solfeggios and the spiritual healing. I've just done another new one called Overcome Procrastination, because on my Facebook fan page, I interact with people there, and if enough people ask me for a new title, then I'll make it. And the most recent one people have been asking me for is Overcome Procrastination, because they say they really want to get things done, they want to get motivated, but they, put things off or get distracted easily.
We just had an online class about that last night, where I had on overcoming procrastination we had an expert from a body, a mind, and a spirit perspective.
Now that's synchronicity for you, see?
Absolutely. And so, Glenn, there are a couple questions I like to ask all guests on the show. The first is, someone might be really struggling right now. You've shared a little bit of your story that you've overcome a lot, but maybe they've lost a job, going through divorce, just a really challenging place. What words of wisdom or advice would you have for them?
I think when you're in that place, when you're at rock bottom, there's things that you need to be able to do that pull you out of that, take you in a different direction. And the key to that is being able to, go inside yourself and really use self-hypnosis, use the power and potential you've got inside to feel empowered again. Because, often when you've had a big fall like that, or your partner's left you, you lost your job, you're broke, You feel very low and you feel very vulnerable at those times. And I know what that's like. I've been there. When I was young, I was there a lot. And the way that you're going to get your self-esteem back, your confidence and your potential back is by going inside and by meditating every single day and just finding that space inside yourself where you can be still and centered, and the harshness of your outer world is not there. You're in a space where you're in your own comfort and your own cocoon almost. And on some of my recordings, the more healing orientated recordings, I often use that space, that safety space, where you feel very protected and very safe. That'd be my phone. Just one second. I forgot to unplug it. It's not a number I know, so I'm just going to pick that up and put it down again, and I'm going to unplug it.
Well, that's all right. That happens. We appreciate
Sorry,
that you're doing. No, go ahead.
So the key to it is, the answer, the safest place you can be at that time, and the most empowering place is inside yourself, and through shutting your eyes, through breathing slowly and deeply, and through just calming yourself down, letting go of all anxieties or worries, and just knowing that you've got the power within you to transform your life. You really have. I've mentioned my story, where I came from. There's countless people who've been at rock bottom in their life, absolutely on the floor, but come back and transform their life. And that comes from within you. It's always within you. And we've all got that potential, even if you've got a busy mind that kind of nags away at you at times. There's free recordings out there. There's, self-hypnosis scripts. You can learn how to switch off and center yourself and get calm. And, and even if you did that for 5 or 10 minutes every day, you would start to change your life. You would start to find a sanctuary in that, and a place that you can begin to rebuild your life. And, even if you struggle with sleep, it's always a great way to catch up on sleep as well, because a lot of people struggle with sleeping through the night and sleeping well. And even if you did 10 or 15, 20 minutes of self-hypnosis or meditation a day, you would catch up on a lot of the sleep you've lost, because, you're allowing your cells and, your every part of you to recharge at that time. And that's what you need to do, so it's a very revitalizing thing as well. And I would really encourage anyone who's struggling, who's on the floor, who wants to achieve a goal or whatever it is, to do that, to make 5 or 10 minutes every day, just to close your eyes and use the dead time that I said before. If you're on a train, if you're, at a bus stop, or even when you're driving, don't go too deep, but just focus, focus on what you want to achieve, your affirmations, that kind of thing. So use the space in your life, the times when you can get your mind engaged in a positive way.
Well, I think that might be my second question is, I'm all about getting off the couch, because I do this show because I want people to find something that works for them, but then take action. So would you say the 5 to 10 minutes is one thing that, they could do it right after the show, they could do it before they went to bed, or they could do it in the morning?
You can do it absolutely anytime. And, it's like I said to you before, it's you've got to be determined with it and disciplined, so maybe cut down on the amount of TV you watch, cut down on the internet usage and, idle internet usage, and, just use some of that time to go inside, because when your brain is constantly engaged by external stimuli, that can create stresses and, put demands on you that you just don't need. So, by switching off and allowing yourself time to go inside, you're going to be regaining a lot of your power and your potential. And so definitely, make time to do that every day, and have your affirmations, your list of affirmations all over the place, and and life will change. I guarantee you, life will change for you.
Thank you, Glenn. Now, how can people find your CDs, your apps, more information? If you can give us your website, and again, if you can make sure we spell it out, because this will be shown later. I always write it in the chat room, but since I won't be there live to do this, tell you about your website, any of your products, anything else you want to share.
Okay, well, my website where you can buy my recordings is hypnosisaudio.com. It's hypnosisaudio.com. And or you can type my name into a search engine and it will come up very, very high. Also, the App Store. My apps now. That Relax and Sleep Well app that I put out there. That's, I think, getting 1 million downloads a year now. And so if you type in my name on the App Store, that one will come up at the top. And it's a completely free app. So it's called Relax and Sleep Well. And it covers those two ingredients that help you with anxiety and sleep issues. And it's very simple. I made that recording very simple and very safe. And it's just a taster of what I do. And so that's a completely free one. I've got 2 or 3 other free ones. If you're more into the spiritual kind of things, I've got one called Solfeggio Sleep and Relax and Sleep Well. So that can be downloaded for free as well. And that's like a 20-minute sampler of the full versions of the Solfeggio meditations. So that's the beauty of the internet now in the App Store. You can put stuff out there, give stuff away for free. And if people like it, then they tend to look at your other stuff and they don't mind paying for a wait CD, recording or whatever it is. And it's a great way, it's direct to the consumer and, yes, it's a fantastic way of connecting with people. I've also on my website, on hypnosisaudio.com, there's a free guide to self-hypnosis, which people can download. But I also include that in my apps as well. So, if you get an app, you'll get it. If you go onto the website, you'll get it as well. So there's a lot of tools there for people to use if they're new to hypnosis, that kind of thing.
Outstanding. Well, we were able to put your website up while you were talking, so people will be able to track you. And Glenn, thanks for being a trooper and doing this and fitting us in and being willing to be on the show. It was very informative, and I'm excited to check out your downloads. You have, it seems like, hypnosis to cover just about every subject, and as you were ticking them off, I thought, I might benefit from a couple of those.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I have got titles for pretty much everything now because, some for tinnitus even, play great golf. Kind of some real niche titles up there. So there is something for everyone. So thank you, Julie. It's been really great to speak to you.
Thank you. And I want to remind our listeners, I know this is a little different. We will check out Reawaken Your Brilliance to see who we have coming up and any online classes that we might have coming up for the Get Off Your Couch series. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Bye now.